Pop it for me. There it goes. Okay. Well, welcome, folks. We are now in week 6. And guys, you are just clicking by the time so quickly. Um, we've got a lot of work to do still, but you have already uh, are winding up with 2 major assignments. And so you need to be proud of yourself. You have rolled your sleeves up and you've are learning, and some of you have already learned APA. And assignment 3, you're going to dive into it again a little more deeply. And we'll talk about assignment 3 tonight. But to begin with, Dr. Stedman, any opening remarks you have?
No, I think we that'll happen as we go on through things. So I'm
Okay.
okay.
So, I'm going to try to be very focused. I've been sitting in the hospital all day with my husband having a heart procedure and just wheeled in at 6:45. So, if I'm a little off, you know why. But I'm going to share my screen if I could.
Okay.
No, 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 excuse me. And we want to do the chapter 4. You want to do the school executive standards,
No,
Dr.
start
Steve.
with the chart. Start with chapter
Okay.
4 first.
I'm going to share my screen and let's look at chapter 4. This text you are going to use throughout your coursework, particularly when you're working on NCPPA. So it's not just a one and done textbook. And tonight's session on chapter 4 is a very important session because it talks about the impact cycle. And the impact cycle is something you will work on when you are working on task 2 of NCPPA and task 3. So you're looking at identifying, learn, and improve. That's the impact cycle that we encourage you to consider as you're working with your teams of teachers and even your one teacher that you'll select to work with when you do task 3 of NCPPA. So let's look at that instructional coaching cycle. This is really what this book is about. It's not about really leadership. I think we have to overtly bring in how does that look from a leader's perspective. But I think we can all agree that all schools need some type of instructional coaching cycle if we want our teachers to grow and improve and refine their practice. There has to be a formalized way that we support teachers as they are growing and learning. So, this cycle, of course, starts out with identify, you collaboratively, and this coaching cycle is a very collaborative cycle, and which you talked about, or we talked about last week and this week. And you'll select a teaching strategy. And then when you are learning as an instructional coach, you may be asked to model and then teach side by side and then let the teacher take over and then improve. You have your teacher set a goal and then you collect data to see if that teaching strategy is supporting student learning and that are the students actually growing and improving. So, first of all, um, in the beginning of chapter 4, it talks about the impact cycle being deceptively simple and that coaches must learn a nuanced way of communicating. So, what does that mean to you? If you could respond in the chat box. Coaches must learn a nuanced way of communicating.
And Dr. Revis, as they're doing this, just remember, as a principal, as an assistant principal, you are a coach working with the staff that you work with.
You are.
That is a part of your leadership.
Well, In fact, it's a huge part. I shouldn't be talking while you're trying to think. So let me hush and I'll talk in a moment. Dr. Stedman, are you getting the chat box? For some reason, my chat box is not showing up.
Yeah, we're okay. Okay. Yes, they're starting to come in. Dr. Evans, you may have to look at the top. Sometime it'll go to the top instead of the bottom.
Okay. Let me stop share and see if that does it. Yes, that's good. I'm going to stop share.
Okay. Can you see it?
Alice said that's very thoughtful. It talks over and over in chapter 4 about um, it's the teacher has to drive their own improvement, and they have to use methods that don't appear to be selling or telling a specific idea or strategy, but it should be more dialogical and use questioning to get teachers to come up with their own strategy. Very good. Choosing your words wisely, yes, of course. To guide people. Because as we know, and until someone's embraced a change effort, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it well. They may do it when you walk in, but they're not going to do it. It has to be something they believe in and that they choose. Teacher is the decision maker. Very good, Amanda. That's right, Jason. Get them to come up with their own strategies and their own goals. Coaches must be intentional, suggest rather than direct. Take into account your delivery. Not telling people, it's having that open conversation with the teacher and where they lead the conversation. Guiding the conversation, not telling. Teachers need choice. Is that all right? Very good responses. Thank you for those responses. I'm going to make this bigger and I'm not going to put it on slideshow. So it means that coaches say what they think when it's helpful. It's very intentional. They recognize that people only do what they choose to do and that the teacher is the decision maker. And so I think you guys have got that down pat. So let's talk about the identify in our cycle. If people do not have a clear picture of reality, they risk investing a lot of energy and pursuing the wrong goal. It's very difficult for people to have an accurate self perception. But with data, it makes the invisible visible. And I love that quote there. Data make the invisible visible. And of course, this chapter talked about different types of data. But in the chat box, I would like for you to select one data collection strategy that you read from pages 63 to 68 and talk about that strategy that you would like to use as a principle and why. Now, I know our data collection strategies have to be unique to the teacher issue, but what is one data collection strategy that you think is going to be one of your go-to strategies? Okay, Jody says, I like giving students a voice. Very impactful. Or video recording a lesson. Record the lesson. Now, I'll tell you this, your teacher has to be very comfortable with that, and you have to establish a lot of trust before you want to record. And I would just caution you and take that very slowly if that's not a practice the teachers in the school have been used to or accustomed to doing, because you are going that you are going to uncover some things that are not always comfortable for people to look at. I think student interviews are very impactful too, but reviewing student work, exactly. Recording, reviewing, giving students voice. Okay, Dana, what is DDI? I'm not connecting.
Sorry, data driven instruction.
Okay,
The
all
term we
right,
use.
thank you. Thank you. Yes, data-driven instruction.
Can I say something about recording your lesson?
Please, Taylor.
So I currently have a student who is going through a master's program to get her teaching degree for special needs children. And part of that is having to record herself teaching a lesson and send it to her instructor. And so um it was awkward, like for sure. But when she got done, she said, I'm not even gonna watch it. But because of like reading this textbook, I and reading about that, I was like, no, you need to watch it and see how you're interacting with the students and what you could do better. So she told me the next day when she come back, she said, I didn't want to, but I watched the video. She said, and I understand what you were telling me about some points that you were making when we were going over the
Right.
4.0. So I was really encouraged by that and getting to see like what we're learning about like lived out in the classroom.
That's great,
Exactly.
Taylor.
And I also like the emphasis that the text puts on, it's not about the goals are not the teacher goals, they're goals for the student. And that shifts a little bit of I think the emphasis away from the teacher. It's really the teacher is doing things differently to get the students to meet their goals. But when you are looking at student goals, whether it's engagement or, they're learning according to the standards or whatever you're looking at, when you shift it to it's build a student goal, then it takes a little bit of pressure off the teacher, I think. Yeah, I think recording lessons, and guys, just a heads up, when you get to task 3 of NCPPA, which will either be it's in your last course, you are going to have to record a teacher, and you're going to have to sit down with that teacher and give them feedback. And so I hope that you're going to pull out this text whenever you're given feedback and very carefully guide that feedback session. And whenever I used to observations all the time. When I started out my observation post conference, the first thing I always said or asked was, what are you really proud of that I saw in that lesson? And that kind of breaks the ice, gives the teacher time to articulate what they felt like they did very well. And then I talk about what is one thing that you think didn't go so well or you wish it would have gone differently. And that kind of gets them to thinking along those lines too. But I think it's always giving them the option to do some reflection. And of course, I'll tell you this, it's been my experience that highly effective teachers are very hard on themselves when they are reviewing their lesson or reflecting on their lesson or reviewing from a video their lesson. They're very hard on themselves and they'll tell you a million things that they wish they could have done differently. So, for those kind of people, I think it's asking those good questions and getting them to talk about, but if you only worked on one thing, what would that be? What would be the most impactful? What are some of those high impact strategies that you could use for this? So, thank you for this information. Everybody's right on point with this as well.
Kelly has a question.
Yes, Kelly.
Oh, it wasn't really a question, but just a comment. And I am thinking about it when we read it or in an earlier chapter, but I think also in helping that discussion with teachers is being able to right now like record ourselves at it so we can go into those conversations, say, oh my goodness, I recorded myself teaching and I found this and this, just to kind of get on that same playing field with them to,
Good.
so they understand.
Exactly. And one other thing, I don't know how many instructional coaches we have, quite a few, I think. Um, have you ever recorded yourself coaching a teacher? Because if you haven't, that's a great opportunity for you as a coach to grow. And gosh, I mean, think about it, what you could learn about yourself and your coaching techniques. Record yourself coaching a teacher. I just think that would be awesome.
And Dr. Evans, I have one thought whenever you were talking to them about, you know, the follow-up of an evaluation or either looking at a recording together. When you ask those questions, you know, talking to talk, it's not easy having those conferences. Sometimes you don't want to have to say what you need to say, but it's important. But when you ask the right questions leading into it, many times, just like if you say, give me something good, tell me one thing that you're not. A lot of times they'll identify something that you were reluctant to say, but they'll open the door for you to say it. And it makes it so much easier when you just don't just jump into it. And you never ever start out, if you can help it, you always accentuate the positives to begin with, and then you lead into those things that need improvement or you could do better.
One of the things, and this is just my anecdotal evidence, I have no research to back me on this, but what I've noticed over my years of observing teachers as a principal and as a district person, teachers, highly effective teachers, like I said, they're going to point out everything. Your job there is let them guide and direct and narrow down something to work on. Highly ineffective teachers can rarely tell you anything they need to work on, which says to me, or did say to me when I was doing that, they're just not good reflectors. They don't have a true sense of reality, number one, and they just don't know how to reflect on their practice. And so a lot of times you have to guide and ask those probing questions. And those would be great teachers, of course, to do the videos with because, ineffective teachers, I don't think they have a good grasp of reality. And I don't think they are practicing reflection. Well, if your reality's skewed, then your reflection is not going to be accurate. So, the tendency and what I really had to think about giving feedback on was if there's one thing I could choose for that teacher to work on, what would it be? What would that one thing that would have the biggest impact? Because they can't work on two or three things at once.
Right.
That's just overwhelming. You have to narrow that down. But again, in the learns phase, what we're looking at, the text talks about using different checklists. I think that's good. Again, you're treating your teacher in that dialogical approach where they're a partner and a co-thinker, and then that's where you may have to do some modeling. All right, now let's go on to improve. How can instructional coaches monitor teacher implementation progress and whether students meet the goal? How do you monitor? Give one way in your chat box that you feel like you could monitor. Again, I think it depends on what the goal is, but what is one way or strategy that you feel comfortable in monitoring?
Okay, Dana, do you have a question? Okay, okay, your hand was up. Okay.
Okay, some good ideas are coming in. Brooke, I apologize for not picking up on yours came in a little later on that first question or previous question. Um, Focusing on teacher and student talk. I agree, especially in the upper grades. I think teachers feel like they have to do the majority of the talking. Okay, Melanie, make modifications to the strategy, how it's taught, change the goal or how you gather data, or simply wait. You can. I'm not a waiting kind of person, and that's one thing I have to work on, but um, helping the teacher first to come up with an effective way to gather data to meet with them to discuss how to use that data to improve instruction, yes. Monitor by classroom check-ins, quick walkthroughs again. Observe how student performance and how they respond to interventions. Okay. Monitor teacher improvements after going through the feedback and seeing if they made adjustments. Student surveys. Yeah. I agree, Kelly. I think you have to go back in. And if you're looking at time off task or whatever you and that teacher agreed upon, you've got to be able to go back and observe and help take some of those tallies and provide that feedback. Daily walkthroughs, check-ins, student surveys, and observations. Good ideas, guys. Okay. Um, and one of you hit on this. How we improve, we change the strategy, change how the strategy is taught, change the goal, change what data are gathered to show progress toward the goal. You may say, wait a minute, that's a cop out. Well, maybe your data collection instrument doesn't match your goal. And that just is what it is. Maybe after a couple times you're seeing, wait a minute, I'm not even measuring what we intend to measure here. And change nothing and simply wait. I have a hard time with that one because I don't believe kids should wait. I think something active needs to happen, and that's what I disagree with the author, but that's my opinion. And then lastly, we're going to finish out with this reflection. All right. As a principal, how will you use the impact cycle at your school? So put on your principal hat. How will you use the impact cycle at your school? So take a moment and reflect.
And Dr.
on.
Revis, if they're using it at their school already, because we had somebody last semester that was, indicate in your response that we use the impact cycle, or you're familiar with, um, the works of Jim Knight. Some people had staff development on it already. So,
Right. That's a good point.
or I should say professional development. I date myself when I say staff development.
Okay, for the sake of time, what I'm going to do, if it's okay with you, Dr. Stedman, or are we okay on time?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
I think these times are important, what we're doing. See a lot of good answers, Dr. Revis.
A lot of good answers.
I see the connections being made.
Hmm. And I'm going to start talking. You guys, if you haven't responded, I expect to see everybody respond. Um, school leaders have a lot on their plate, from the school executive standards that Dr. Stedman's been having conversations with you about. There's a lot of things. But one of your major jobs as a school principal is to help your teachers, each and every teacher, be the best teacher they can be. Because that's what it's about. It's about optimizing that teaching and learning process. And so you've got to feel comfortable discussing what good instruction looks like. And you have to let your teachers know what you feel is important when you come in and do a walkthrough or you're just going in and out of classrooms. But your job is to build everybody, improve all teachers, the quality of their instruction, to be the best that it can be. And you may go in and you may see that this person, Kelly Messer, she's my best teacher in the building. You know what my job is then? To make every teacher in my building just like Kelly. And that's hard. But if you think about it just a minute, in a classroom, isn't that what we try to do too, anyway? Now people come to you, you're gonna have staff members at all different places with all different levels of ability and all different strengths and areas for growth. You've got to work individually with these people. One size doesn't fit all. But you always have to believe, and I believe this. If I didn't, I couldn't have given my whole career into education. I believe that teachers come to school wanting to do the best job they can do. Now, sometimes they don't feel well, they're sick, or they're having a bad day or whatever. But I don't believe any teacher intentionally sets out to be an ineffective teacher. I just don't think
Later.
that they're there. I think everybody wants to be effective. It's just as a school leader, you've got to know, you've got to differentiate your support. If you can, you differentiate the PD. That's what instructional coaches are all about. Because you're meeting them where they are and you're growing them to be the best that Kelly Messer is. You want them to be just like her or even better. But that's hard to grow all your teachers. But that's your job. Okay, I'm done, Dr. Stedman. Any other final thoughts from anyone? And guys, you can't just turn that over to your instructional coach either. You've got to have a part in that and play a part in that. Thank you.
Hey, great discussion, a great lesson on chapter 4. And again, like Dr. Reva said, you will visit this model again by your third semester at least. Okay, today we're going to briefly go over Standard 4, Human Resource Leadership. Now, for some of you, if you are working in a coaching capacity or something of that nature, you are somewhat familiar with it, and you may have been involved in some of this if you're part of the leadership team. But this type of leadership, for many of you, will be something new. But I want us to just quickly look at the summary, and I want you to be thinking about, while I'm just going over the summary, I want you to be thinking about, looking at the practices, what nuance really stood out to you? And we're just going to have a quick, just somebody chime in, and we'll have a brief comment on it, and that's how we're going to cover that part. But I want to look at the summary, and I want to read it because I think it's important to emphasize what human resource leadership is, because you're going to be responsible for it. School executives will ensure that the school is a professional learning community, the entire school. That's the premise of a lot of what we've been talking about already this semester. School executives will ensure that processes and systems are in place that result in the recruitment, the induction, the support, the evaluation, the development, and retention of high-performing staff. Dr. Revis, didn't you just say that? So this reiterates that. The school executive must engage and empower accomplished teachers in a distributive leadership manner. If the administration is doing it all by themselves, they're ineffective. If they are not allowing professionals like you to be a part of this process with hiring teachers, recruiting them, supporting them, helping with these things, then they're not doing their job. It clearly says that this is a requirement. And this includes supporting teachers in day-to-day decisions such as discipline, communication with parents, and protecting teachers from duties that interfere with teaching. They also must practice fair and consistent evaluation of teachers. When I go into Taylor's room and then I'm looking at Kelly again, I go into Kelly's room, I must not be biased to either one of them. I must be equal, and I must be honest with both of them in my evaluations. The school executive must engage teachers and other professional staff in conversations to plan their career paths and support district succession planning. So there's a lot that's involved in human resource leadership. And very quickly, without me reading the practices, I want us to, which of these practices, and just somebody just open up and talk, which of these practices really stood out to you and why? Somebody. Okay, Allison?
The one about empowering teachers in your building to take on leadership roles and get more involved with the leadership roles. I think it was the fourth bullet point.
Okay.
Create processes for teachers to assume leadership and decision-making roles within the school that foster their career development.
And let's go back. Those of you that are involved with the teacher working condition survey, is that not a vital part of the teacher working condition survey? In South Carolina, I'm sure you've got something that's equal to that, but that is vitally important. Allison, thank you for sharing that. Jason?
The one where we talk about communicating a positive attitude about the ability of staff to accomplish substantial outcomes to improve their efficacy. We recently went through this with a principal that was not very good at this and had one of those instances where you were looking at huge teacher turnover by the end of the year. I think that, when you get through the doldrums of the everyday life that we go through as teachers, things start to get run down, teachers start to get run down. And I believe that you've got to sometimes be that most positive light that they see at the end of the tunnel. And I guess you could say keep pushing them to be as effective as they could possibly be.
That's well said, Jason. And efficacy is such an important part. Teacher efficacy is so important. If a teacher feels good about who they are, what they're doing, who ultimately is going to be impacted by that? Come on, somebody. Who's going to be impacted by a teacher that feels good about themselves and
The
enjoys
students.
the
Students.
students? That's what it should be all about. So yes, as the leader, you've got, like Jason said, you've got to set the example. It has to begin with you. You help to build teacher efficacy. Jessica?
I was going to say the same as Jason, that the administrator has to have a positive attitude. It kind of makes or breaks the school. I've worked for very effective leaders, and in one instance, a very ineffective leader. And teacher morale was so low, student morale was so low. It affects everything.
It does, Jessica. And I will say this. I was an assistant principal for 8 years. My first 2 years was with an ineffective principal. My last 6 years was with one of the most effective principals. She was truly my mentor. But I learned from both of them. Mm-hmm. From the first one, I learned what not to do. And from the other one, I learned everything that I should do. So there was a learning experience in both situations. Good, well said, Jessica. One more before we close up. Okay, Jara?
I think I resonated with the positive attitude, and then also just being a lifelong learner and promoting adult learning. I think in the past I've worked for administrators that seem to be very removed from the teaching aspect, and even though they're still an administrator, I still feel that you bear the responsibility to teach and inspire and teach other teachers and teach other coaches to be the best that they can be too. So I don't ever think as the administrator that you completely put down the motivational and instructional hat. I think you have to wear that underneath also the principal hat as well.
I agree. Well said. Good conversation. And then you were able to read the artifacts themselves, one of them being the teacher working condition survey, and all those others that profoundly stood out. But anyway, job well done. Next week, I don't know why I stopped sharing. Let me see. I do know why, because I've got to close out of this, and I messed up last week when I was doing this. Somebody tell me what to do. I got to close. I got to close out of this. Here it is. There it is. I couldn't find the word. But next week, as a reminder, we will go into Standard 5. And Standard 5 is managerial leadership. And at some point, there will be a lot of focus in being a manager is a type of leadership, but there's a difference between being a manager and a leader. So, just kind of do a little bit of reading on that, Google something yourself, and just find the difference between being a manager and a leader, but be prepared for us to talk about managerial leadership. Good job. And Dr. Revis, I think with you, they've got to be prepared for chapter 5 next week out of the textbook. Okay, just a reminder as we're going through this, your clinical internship, remember, you've got the rest of this week and next week to get your hours in and get that completed and turn that in to either Dr. Revis or me, Dr. Revis's class to me, and my class to Dr. Revis for us to review that, and that will be in your internship shells. Do we have any questions about assignment 2, which is due this week? Allison, you have a question?
I had a question about the internship.
Okay.
And I'm sure this was said. I just want to make sure our supervisor does have to sign the mid-semester log or no?
No.
Okay.
They don't have to sign the mid-semester one. They'll have to sign the one at the end that combines the mid-semester and everything else at the end. But no, this is just for us at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good question.
And you're just going to continue on the same sheet to finish out your entire semester.
Right.
Okay.
Make it ongoing. Any questions about assignment 2, Brooklyn?
Yes, about our internship hours. Last week, just make sure I understand, 50% of each of the like the 100, we have to have 50 of each of those areas broken down? Or can we have more of one area and less of the other? Or does it need to be equal?
Follow the example, the one that your template, your example that's in Blackboard, and it tells you you've got to have a minimum of 200 hours at the end of this semester. Those of you that are in the three semester program. So you will have to have, it tells you how many hours that you can have in each of those areas. So if it's, Dr. Revis, I can't remember, if it's 10 hours, then you've got to have 5 of those hours now, and then you'll have 5 left. So we should see half of whatever your total 200 hours should be this time in each of those areas.
But Dr. Stanton, let me ask you this scenario. If I don't have 50 hours on my assignment work, class, then what do I do?
You must show leadership outside of your assignments to include that. You don't have, we give you the leeway to have up to that. But if you don't have 50 hours or whatever many hours you need on the APSL, then that part is okay. But you have to make it up in leadership in another capacity. That's the only area you can transfer them to, is leadership in some other area. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
That was a good question somebody sent me or us this week.
Okay. Okay. Very quickly, any questions about assignment 2 that is due by this Sunday at 6 o'clock? I will tell you, I've had one to come in, Dr. Revis. I graded it today. It was, and she's, I don't know where she is. She's not with us tonight. Christine Mitchell's. It was as perfect as anything could be. She
Awesome.
Very professionally done. Very professionally done. Okay, Jara?
I'm still working with my administrative team to really get the behavior data. That's been challenging for us in our system. So I wanted to know for that, how many years do we have to go back for the student group to show attendance and behavior?
The best practice is a minimum of 3 years.
Okay.
But if there should be something on your report card somewhere about data, discipline.
It just wasn't specific. It wasn't
Okay.
from my student group.
Okay. But if it's not, you work with what you've got.
Okay.
Am I right, Dr. Revis?
Right. NCPPA wants you to have two other quantitative
Yeah.
pieces of data. So if you don't have or can't get that discipline data by student group, then perhaps you've got a climate survey you can look at where you're looking at some diversity section of that climate survey, or maybe you've got attendance data that's broken down by student group. You got to have two more pieces of quantitative data.
Okay.
That's what the rubric says. And that's what we're getting you prepared to be able to do.
Jara, I would still try because discipline is an important part of what you're doing. But if not, that is the alternative.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Allison?
So mine's sort of similar question. So I was able to look at Educator's Handbook for discipline data, but it's super, I don't really even know how to describe it. I have to like dig to get to my subgroup, and I've gotten there, but then I'm just having trouble analyzing it. Like, am I making comparisons to other groups? Like for the number of office referrals, for example.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Are you South
Okay.
Carolina, Allison?
No, North Carolina.
Okay, North Carolina is easier to find than South Carolina with some of this data. Jara, are you South Carolina? Jara, are you South
No,
Carolina? You're North Carolina as
I'm
well?
North Carolina.
Okay.
Guys,
Okay.
I thought student discipline data was broken down by student group on your school report card,
I did
but I
too.
could be wrong.
Yeah.
I think I
did.
saw it in a very earlier year, and then it was like they stopped doing it after
Okay.
a certain period of
Yeah,
time.
I haven't
Okay.
been able to find it there either.
Okay.
And if
guys,
somebody has, maybe they could like say,
Yeah, if
"Oh,
somebody's
it's
found
here."
that in North Carolina and or South Carolina, please put that in the chat box. That would be
Dan,
awesome.
you've got you've got your teams that you're going to be working with this semester. So, you've got at least 3 other people that you can reach out to them and just say, guys, this is what I'm looking for. Do you have something? Support each other with that. Okay. Okay. Okay, Dr. Revis, let's move on to, I think we're going to have to hold the peer review teams until next week. The peer review process. Don't you think that
Okay.
we have time on that?
Well,
Or do
it's
we?
it's due March the 1st, which,
Okay.
but I mean, whatever you want to do, we'll do whatever you think.
Well, we've got to introduce assignment 3,
Okay.
and we've got to do that. Do we want
Let's
to
introduce assignment 3 next, okay?
Okay, let's just do that then. Okay.
It
You
should
want me to
not
stop
take
share?
long.
You want me to stop share, or
No,
you
if
want me
you
to
just
bring it
want
up?
to can you pull it up? Yeah, I
I
don't have
will.
it pulled up.
And I will tell you, guys, Dr. Revis sent me the link for Dover Library because it's changed. What she sent me, it would not come up as a live link, so I went back in there. Hers is going to show up differently than mine. The A through Z databases, that's the same thing. When you open it up, it opens up to the library. It's the very same thing. So
Okay.
if your group sees that, so
Let's
open up.
let's first open up the assignment 3,
Okay.
and let's kind of talk about where we are. All right, assignment 1, you did your data dive. You looked at all kinds of student Performance and growth data. You identified a target academic area and a target student group. In assignment 2, you dug further into that academic area within and that target student group. And you gathered some other types of data. You gathered some qualitative data. You did a focus group with some teachers who are in that target, in that academic area, and you did some interviews. That's what you did in assignment 2. Now, assignment 3. It's about going to the library and you doing research. A lot of times in education, we identify an academic area to focus on. We could even identify a target student group. But how do we know how to address it? Well, we start looking around and hearing what happened down the road at this school. They've adopted a program, and they may not even have the similar demographics, but they've adopted a program that addresses reading. Or they've adopted a program, this school down here has adopted a program about to improve math performance of students with disabilities. But you know what? I heard that at a conference, and that school's not even in my same state, so that may not make a difference. You have to be willing, as an instructional leader, to do your research. And of course, we're fortunate here that you have Gardner Webb Library. You can do some research. We're looking at you building a literature review. And that literature review contains at least 10 resources. To get accomplished or exceeding, I think that's the highest category, you need to have more than 10 resources that provides information on the root causes of poor performance within the priority area and the target student group. What are the causes? Secondly, what are some research-based solutions for improving student learning? And thirdly, you'll need to do a little research on what is a theory of action. So we are forcing you to delve into the research. What does the educational research say? And to get accomplished, you need more than 10 resources. To get meeting, you have to get at least 10, and so on and so forth down the line. So I expect everybody to have more than 10 because we're all shooting for that accomplished category. And so that's really all you're doing is you're gathering research. But you have to know how to do it through Gardner Webb Library, and you need to know how to put it together. So, Dr. Stemman, if you'll scroll on down.
And just reminder, it must be done APA style.
It's got to be APA style. And I'm going to talk about APA as when I get to my example.
Go all the way past this?
Yes, let's go down to the helpful, what I call the helpful hints.
Okay.
So the first paragraph, I want you to reintroduce what your pressing academic area of need is, and I want you to reintroduce your student group. So for my example, it's high school math 1 with English language learners. I've carried that all the way through. And then I am going to start my literature review. Okay? I want you to notice a couple things. This is double spaced. Always, all your assignments are double spaced. And we are going into the research. And if you notice, I'm going to say something like this. I'm in the second paragraph. The nature of mathematics teaching involves an understanding of fundamental principles, application of these principles to get the solutions, and then test the understanding of the method by varying use cases. Then I've got my author cited. Author last name only, comma, date. Remember, APA does author, date, either in text or narrative style. You have to do your citations. You only put page numbers if you are using direct quotes. I know this is a narrative citation, and at all, of course, means that I have more than two authors, and I've got author, et al., comma, date. Propose that mathematics serves as a gatekeeper. You notice I don't have any quotes because I am synthesizing and paraphrasing my reading. And so you read through that, and yours should read very similarly. You know, overall, how do we teach mathematics? And then drill down to how do you do it with your target student group? Would be a good way to look at it.
But Revis, and I don't see it, but you've got this one, the ampersand there at the end. And I'm just saying that
Yes.
between that and the word and.
And if you've got a parenthetical citation, you can use the ampersand, but if it's a narrative citation, you use the word and. Remember, narrative is part of that sentence. Usually it comes at the beginning of the sentence. But read through that, and guys, you got to learn APA. I'll just tell you. And then I give a summary of the research.
And again, use the headings that have been provided for you.
Mm-hmm. And then let's look on down. We have a theory of action. You're
And Dr. Evans,
actually,
and we are going to talk about the theory of action again more next week, more in detail.
okay, you're actually going to define some strategies based on your research. You're going to bullet some strategies at the very end after you state your theory of action. And again, we'll talk about that more. I want to get down to the references. Okay, your references are all double spaced with the hanging indent. That has not changed. You have an APA checklist that's on your agenda. We expect you to pull that up, peer review it, and have somebody look at your APA formatting because this assignment is full of APA. You're actually doing a mini research paper with a minimum of 10 resources. To get accomplished, you would need more than 10. Again, we're researching what the literature says works in the academic area and with those student groups.
And we click on the library.
Yes. All right. Now I'm probably going to have to take over, aren't I?
Okay.
Okay.
You want to just stop share? Or have you got
Yeah,
your
let's
up?
stop share.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to pull up my agenda though. I apologize, Dr. Stedman. I came in and
Okay.
forgot I had to do that.
It's okay. And Dr. Evans, we're going to be good to go back to the
Okay.
there is just 8 o'clock. We can take a little bit of time for that. Danielle, you got a question while Dr. Evans is pulling that up?
I do. Thank you. Does the library still have interlibrary loan in case you find an article, but then it doesn't necessarily have it, but you can?
It does.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I discourage you from using that, okay, because it takes time and you don't have a lot of time.
Okay.
Here are your main educational databases. I always like to start at ERIC or ProQuest, but I'm going to start at ERIC here. Now, each of these databases, their search function is just a little bit different, okay? But it's kind of intuitive. I'm going to show you one, and then you can look at the others. Okay, I'm searching ERIC database. I am going to search for, when I'm keeping with my theme, I'm going to search for um and math instruction. Okay. Well, look, I only got three hits on that. So let's look and see what came up. That definitely is something. Now, one thing I'm going to do too is I'm going to click full text because I don't have time to do an interlibrary loan. And that particular resource is a full text. So I can come down here and I can pull it down, download it. All right. This one I'm going to use. I know I'm going to use that. And that's the only one using these search words that comes up. So let's see. What else am I going to say? We give all kinds of names to this group of students: English language learners and math instruction. Let's see if I get any more. Okay, I did. I got a few more. All right. And then you may want to, here's another one. Let me go do this one. Because some of you've chosen and math instruction. I think there's probably a lot here. Let's scroll down to the bottom and see. If your search turns up a lot, which it says shows more results, then to narrow it down, what I would say you need to do, okay, here it is. There are 65 results. So I'm going to go over here to where it says dates, and I'm going to go to the past 5 years. Because I don't really believe if I go past 5 years, that may or may not be relevant, but I get 10 resources there.
12, actually.
12, yeah, excuse me.
Okay.
And some of these may apply and some not. Now, if you don't get it through Eric, then I would go back. I've got to move my frame here. I would go back and to my AZ databases. I might want to go to ProQuest, or there's where you could you'll have some ebooks that are online too. These are dissertations. Sage Premier has a lot of good work. Let's just look at that search engine. It's probably very similar to Eric, I would think. Some of these you may need to sign in on. I don't know. Okay, enter search terms. And just search. Well, now look how many you get. There's 35,000. That's way too much. I want to make sure a couple of things are turned on. Look at my publication date. Here it's over to the left-hand side. I'm going to just immediately all right, that's 2021. We could go back a little bit if you wanted to. And let's see how many. I still got 6,000. So then I want to make sure that I'm doing open access here as another layer because you want to be able to access it. and it narrows it down a little bit more. Um, Maybe you want to only use research articles. I would not use editorials really. Let's see what the seven more. A book review, I probably wouldn't use that. I would stay up here with research articles. There are 1,300 of them, but now that you've narrowed down some other search factors, you may not have that many. But again, that looks like it's going to give you a lot of information. Now, I will tell you that for Sage, it's you're going to get some really good research-based instructional strategies. So that's what I would say there. But it's going to pop up all your educational databases. There are 10 of them, and it doesn't matter what you want to pull it from. And there's also a way that you can save your articles, and there's also a way that you can get your citations and references, but please check them because sometimes those search features don't always put it in correct APA format for your references.
Dr. Revis, just as a reminder to them, play with it a little bit, between now and next week. And then, save your questions and we can go into we could go into it and answer your questions and help you with that. Brooklyn made a comment about a video that Dr. Revis had posted at one time in our show. Some of that still works, some of it won't work, Dr. Revis, because you said that they had changed things based on how you did that video. So,
we used to have what was called a Bulldog One search.
Right.
And don't use that anymore. And so you have to go to the specific database. And these are the ones for education. Now, Gardner Webb has many more, but these were the ones that will get you to the educational database.
And we didn't know that until this week. We didn't know that had changed. We were not made aware. So Dr. Revis discovered this.
When I was preparing for class, yes. But again, it's just fooling around with it. And guys, don't spend an enormous amount of time. That Sage one came up with so many for students with disabilities. I don't know that I go anywhere else unless you're not finding articles specific enough. And I would stay probably with articles because you don't have time to read books. You don't have time to really, definitely not to do interlibrary loan. You just need to, get something that you can access and save and archive yourself so you can go back and reference that information.
And yes, the question was asked, yes, so we will count so many hours of your research towards your APSL hours while you're doing your research.
Because guys, as I said, that's one place we don't do well in as educators. We just start cherry picking different things. We don't know if it works or not. We don't know what the research base is on it. So you've got to learn always to do research. Any questions? Again, as Dr. Simmons said, we will get in there, play with it a little bit, see what you can find, and we'll answer more questions next week on it.
Dr. Revis, it says, is anyone else being asked to request access for the assignment? Just make sure it's open in your shell. Any of my class, are you having problems with it? Check that. Your class, Dr. Revis, it said they're having as access, so it may not be made available yet.
And which
assignment 3? Is that what you're talking about?
Assignment 3 is it assignment 3? Okay, I'll look at that right after we get out.
Jara, you raised your hand a while ago.
Oh, I put it down. I can save it. It was
Okay.
a citation thing. I could save that for later.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Revis, you want to go ahead and while you've got yours up, go ahead and open it up to the peer reviews and we can talk from there.
Do you want to go into that tonight, or are we?
Let's just do it next week. I think we'll be okay.
We'll do it next week, where you start looking at building your first artifact from task 1 for NCPPA, using the work that you've collected in the couple of assignments you've done. But we'll wait till next week to do that. I will say, if you have not pulled off your handbook, your NCPPA handbook, and remember where that is. Let me see if I can find it. Your NCPPA artifacts right here. They're under this link that says North Carolina Principal Portfolio Assessment Resource Depository. Go down here and pull the handbook. All
Guys,
right.
I would make me a hard copy of that handbook so I could highlight in it, put sticky notes out beside it.
Well, you know, we're from a different generation. We like a hard copy.
Yeah,
And
well,
we know some of you don't. But I tell you, what we're going to be looking at is, I want you to skip to page 20. And I want you to start looking there in page 20, because we're going to start putting together artifact 1. Okay?
Okay.
And that's all I'm going to ask you to do.
Okay, guys, we will open up assignment 3. My class, it's the same thing. So I will open it up as soon as we get through. Okay?
All right.
It's just that when we put it in there, we didn't make it available to students. Allison?
I was looking over, I don't know what I was looking at, the syllabus maybe, and it said something about registering for task 1 by, I want to say it was early March. Is that something that you're gonna like talk to us about, or do we just,
Yes.
is that something we just go ahead and do on our
No,
own?
we'll tell you when to do that.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll probably talk about it next week.
Yeah.
But you do have to have your money together before you register.
So, and that will be $150 for the first test. Okay, Jody?
Yeah, she was mentioning having the money together for the first assignment. When I went back and I looked at my bill for this semester, I was already charged for this assignment. I have a task stream charge on my account. And I remember somebody saying in an orientation that they were going to try to get it.
That's different. Task stream is one thing. NCPPA is another, is a different thing.
It's a different charge.
It's different. It's a different charge.
And I just want to make sure.
Yeah, and that is not that good question though. That is not on your that they have not gotten that into the billing cycle yet. Yeah, that will come in the fall of next year.
I remember them saying that, so I didn't know if the two things were related, so I wanted to make sure.
So you'll have to do the same thing again in the summer, and then the one in the fall should be a part of your, it should be a part of your billing cycle at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. I mean, good point, though. Okay. Okay, and then, but you can open up assignment 3 on your agenda before we get it. That should open up because it opened up for us.
Can it up? Has everybody got it
open? Okay. But Dr. Revis, it may go back to because you sent me that, and remember, you have to do something for students to have access to that, to open up for them. That was sent to me
Right.
from where you.
Yeah.
So
I'll go back and check that.
Okay, Dr. Rivers, I opened that up because she's the owner of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, if you have not connected with your
Okay, now,
teammates or your peer reviews, you need to do that, and you need to
now,
start talking with each other.
now Jared said he could open his up. Well, who knows? We'll figure it out though.
Technology, don't you love it?
Was anybody else able to open it up? Okay, okay, Jared, you're the special one tonight.
Oh, goodness. All right, guys. Any last questions before we get off from here?
You've been a
Is the
you've been a great class.
UX
Go ahead.
is when you access that library site where you were doing the searches in the databases, is that link in the assignment? Is that why,
It's in your agenda.
or how do we that link to the library?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Look at your agenda and then look under you
I
see
see
it?
it. Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, Tommy?
Yeah, a quick question about the student feedback survey. We just go ahead and do that whenever we want to.
Yes, that can, just respond to that. You'll see a student survey. That was something from, I'm glad you pointed that out. That's from Gardner Webb, and they would like your input on some things. So if you would, please respond to that. You can also find that at the very top of your Blackboard shell as well.
So that is your opportunity to tell, and it comes back to us. We get to see, and it's anonymous, but we get to see what you feel like we could do differently to support our candidates moving forward. And we do take that feedback seriously.
We do. Okay. But again, class, you've been so attentive. You've responded well. Very proud of you.
All right. If you have any questions, reach out.
Okay.
Have a good rest of your week.
Good night, everybody.
Dr. Stedman,
Yes, ma'am.
I tried to go back into assignment 3 to open it up, but it still won't open up there.
Okay. Hold
Like
while
off of the
let me
agenda.
let me stop recording.